This is Page Up with Dr. Angela Lauria, helping you write a nonfiction book that gets clients, drives revenue, and builds credibility. Learn more at pageuppodcast.com. Now we're going to dive into the meat of what we're doing. And if you remember, a million years ago, aka about 2.5 months ago, one of the first things you did was, which was class 2, but I still have not quite figured out, class 1 and class 2 are really married. There's just too much content to do at one time, but class 2 is your outcomes. Do you remember that lady who did that? You used to know her? Okay, when you did your outcomes, there was a whole bunch you didn't know. So the way that I approach our whole entire book process and why I want your manuscript done, but why I haven't edited it yet, this is because what usually happens, not always, but usually, is that by the time you finished writing it, you're like, oh, now I know what the book's supposed to do. Like, now I know what my program is. Now I know what So we do step 2, which is frame your outcome, so that you can write a book that helps you go back to step 2 and reframe your outcome so we can edit it in a way that gets you that outcome. So in order for me to give you the best feedback on your manuscript, which is why I kind of added this stopping point on the journey, I need to know how that outcome has changed now that you sort of see this. Many of you have been selling. Many of you have created new programs, sold some of your first programs. Many of you have been selling before, and you're like, oh, now I'm going to structure it differently. You're starting to see the picture, and you're going to see it even more over the next 3 days of where you can go with this. And that often, a lot of times people start the outcome assignment with like 30 products they want to sell, or like, first I'm going to sell this, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, and they have these very complicated, and I want you to like simplify. So now you probably see things a little differently. So I want to go revisit that assignment and make sure what you said is what you said. And for some people, it will be. Okay, the way we need to do that, have you guys ever heard me talk about the trip to Canada? So I'll say I can only tell you one way to Canada. Okay. So this is what happens a lot with you guys. So we all have a conversation, and then I have this other translation of the conversation. So a lot of times our conversations sound like this to me. You guys say, oh my God, Angela, I really want to go to Canada. And I'm like, oh, Canada? Totally no other way. Go this way. And then you look me in the eye and you're like, that is brilliant. I'm going that way. And then you come back 2 days later and you're like, so, I know what you were saying about going to Canada. I'm thinking of stopping by San Diego on my way. And I say, seems like a long way to get to Canada. What with it being west instead of north and all. And then you're like, yeah, I totally want to listen to you, but I also really just want to go to San Diego on my way to Canada. You could totally go to San Diego on your way to Canada, for sure. I can't be in integrity and tell you that's a good idea. So it often comes off as like kind of abrasive. I'm also abrasive, but it comes off as abrasive because I'm like, well, that's a dumb way to go to Canada, right? Because that's what it looks like to me when you're talking. You're just like, oh my God, I love your idea. What do you think about stopping by San Diego? I'm like, I think that would be it. Not good, right? So it's very hard for me. So then you will often push me and be like, well, what if we went to San Diego in a Winnebago? And I'll be like, nope, still seems bad. Like, it's like you're trying to convince me. I really, really promise you, I know the way to Canada. I know it's north. I'm 100% sure. Could you get there by going south through Argentina, around the, whatever is that called, the South Pole, is that Antarctica, and then like loop back around? Like, I'm sure, I don't really know that way, and if I did, I wouldn't take you that way. So I have to stay in integrity, I have to be very clear with any time you deviate. That doesn't mean you can't do it. And there are 2 ways that you can do it. One is you could just be like, meh, I don't like this girl's GPS. I don't think that is the way to Canada. I don't think that's the way to Canada for me. I disagree. And if that is the case, that's perfectly fine. Pretend for 3 days. because you can owe it. You can't get this time back with me. So just pretend for 3 days, and at the end of 3 days, you're like, I think that whole thing's stupid. Just don't do it. And by the way, I did this at Landmark. Has anybody done Landmark? So I love a bunch of things about Landmark, and then I don't love a bunch of things about Landmark. It's just a personal development training program. So I just went there. I played full out. I was like, let me pretend I'm going to get sucked into their little cult so I can get all the juicy stuff, and I still use a ton of stuff I learned there, and then let me get the fuck out because I think it's a crazy cult. Right? So like, but that doesn't mean, so even if you think I'm totally crazy, you don't want to keep working with me, you don't agree with any of this, the only way to really get the juicy stuff is to play full out for the next 3 days. So just act as if, even if you think it's nuts, because you really will get so much more benefit than if you argue with me in your mind for 3 days, right? So in order for us to build your plan, we have to know what Canada is. For you, we have to know what is the destination, because I don't want to change the destination for you. In fact, I was just answering some Facebook posts on the break, and somebody posted like, and I had this with when Lissa Rankin was my client. This was a big thing for her too. Like, I'm afraid I'm going to get too big. I'm afraid I'm going to get too famous. I'm afraid things are going to blow up too much, right? So you get to control where we're going. So I have a client who's Canada. It's really awesome. I think he's going to get there. His Canada is $100 million nonprofit organization. His name is Ken Leinbach, and his organization is called Urban Ecology. And they have changed Milwaukee with what they do. They take inner city parks, they revitalize them, they coordinate with the schools and with like the communities to make these like education centers. They're gardens, so they provide foods to the neighborhood. They provide like biology lessons and teaching, and they integrate with the schools. And then it's an aftercare program for the kids. They have changed the face of Milwaukee, and he is up for a MacArthur grant to change like the world with this. And he's been in like 15 cities. His book is amazing. He's incredible. He has like this $100 million vision, and he already has a seven-figure organization with many employees and lots of grants, and that's a huge vision. That may not be yours. The path, that's still Canada. The path there, I want to go in a straight line. I have a specific way. Your Canada might be $10,000 a month, 20 hours a week. That's just as good as, in my head, it's just as good as Ken's vision. We don't all have to start an urban ecology center. We don't all have to live in a castle. You have to have a vision, and I want this to be, I don't want to talk about necessarily the next 12 to 18 months, although that's mostly what we're going to build a plan for. I want to know where we're going. So what's like my big goal is to change the publishing industry. So my goal is, if I had a keynote at BEA, which is Book Expo of America, and I'm like very far from this, like probably 5 to 10 years from when this might happen. But if I had a keynote there, and I was like the speaker that Random House and Simon & Schuster and Hachette wanted to hear about how they were all going to remake their organizations, that to me, I would know that I had gotten to Canada. That's like where we're going. If there was an urban ecology center in every single city, just like there's a McDonald's in every city, or multiple McDonald's in every city, Ken wants as many urban ecology centers as there are inner city parks in the world. Like, that's how we'll know we've gotten there, right? So I'm not looking for what can we do this year, this time next year. I'm looking for like, where are we going? What's that big, how will we know we've gotten there? What's the big vision? Some of the things that people have shared with me is like having a retreat center where they can have like different modalities and people coming to that retreat center. Amari's was he wanted to, and they could be personal, they could be business goals. Amari's was he wanted five homes. He wanted to live in 5 locations. They didn't like, so it could just be like an apartment in Paris and a house. I think one of his houses was in Indiana, which is where he's from or his parents are from. But he's like, I just want to have 5 houses and I want to be totally mobile. Right? So it doesn't matter if it's personal, it doesn't matter if it's business, but I want us to know where we're headed. And what I always say is, it is actually that or something better. So it's not that I don't want a keynote at BEA. I do totally want a keynote at BEA. But it could also be the cover of Publishers Weekly magazine. Like there's a bunch of, like it doesn't have to be that. So we want to get in the ballpark and know where we're going. This is the end point, or the Canada, right? This is the end point for our trip. When we start talking about what we're trying to do, let's say a year or 18 months from now, 14 months from now, that's kind of like the first night hotel stay. So we've got to do like an 8-hour road trip, and that's what we're going to build a plan for. But I want to make sure we're driving the car in the right direction. What is for you that long-term goal, which is what Canada is? So when I talked to Caroline Green, who's one of our authors who did 2 books with us, Next and Matter. She's a coach for mom entrepreneurs. So what she said to me, now I can't remember their names. Okay, Glennon Doyle Melton runs a blog called Monastery, like a new funky liberal kind of Christian community that's got a big following. So they do an annual event. Monastery does an annual event. And Caroline's goal was to be on the stage at that annual event. So if you can imagine that, and there might be an event like this for you. Like clearly that's not the event for me because I couldn't even remember the damn woman's name. But if you can imagine like, that's the stage I want to be on. What I want you to think about is like, who are they booking as a speaker? Like what would it take for you to be on that stage, right? That's what we're going to build a plan for. But and that might be 3 to 5 years. Like unless you win the lottery, most people don't go from being unheard of to being on the Monastery stage. It happens to be famous. I know you guys don't know it. So what are we? My example, I'll tell you the Joan London story. So I lived on a hill. I lived on the top of the hill, and the bus stop was at the bottom of the hill. So the bus would drop me off from school, and there was like this long, not steep way up the hill. And then there was this like vertical climb. And so I would always do the vertical climb because the long way was so exhausting, but the vertical climb was miserable. So it was, 6 and 1/2 dozen the other. So to get myself, and the bus would drop me off, I must have been 7, 8. So the bus would drop me off and I would like make this decision. Every once in a while I'd go the long way, but almost always I go the short way. And to get myself up the hill, I used to write songs. So I would write these songs and I would like sing them as I was walking up the hill and like distract myself by writing a song. And I'm going to sing for you guys. So I'm going to share the song. And I don't know why I was writing this at 8 years old. But this is the song I was writing at 8 years old. This is the one I remember when the vision came to me. So it goes like this. If you don't like what you see in the big old mirror, if you don't like what you feel in the bottom of your heart, change your ways, change your life, do the things you think are right, change the times, what people say, make things the way you want today. No idea why, right? That was 8-year-old little me. So I'm walking up the hill and I'm singing this song, and it was like day after day. This was like my like drudging thing. And every time I would see it, I would sing it, I would see myself on the couch. I'm going to now date myself with Joan London. Does anybody remember Joan London from Good Morning America? So it wasn't Steve Hartman. It was always Joan London. I was on the couch. And I knew, like in my little girl head, I knew I was there because of this song. Like this song had made it. That's why I was on the stage. And so I'd sit down with Joan London, and Joan London was about to ask me, like, tell me about how you wrote the song, like whatever Joan London's question was. And she would always ask me about the people. She'd be like, so these people you're supporting. And I'm like, no, let's talk about my song. Like I would have this like very frustrated visualization. So I knew, and this was like for years. This is like all of, until I had the whole dream of the blue turtle problem. Then I lost everything because I accidentally saw, what was that movie, The Day After? in 5th grade. So I had all these dreams, and then I saw The Day After, and then I thought we were all going to die. And then Sting wrote The Dream of the Blue Turtle. He wrote If the Russians Love Their Children Too. That's when I finally got my life back. I didn't sleep for a year because of that movie. Anyway, so Joan London would always ask me about you guys, but I, of course, did not know she was asking me about you guys because it was always about this organization I was running supporting all these other people. And I was like, I don't know who the other people are, but I'm going to be a rock star. I was in a band called The Outhouses with Mandy Monaco. Like, for sure, we were going to be famous. The Outhouses, yes. Girl Scout camp made a big impression, is what that's about. So I always knew I would know I made it when I got on Joan London's couch. For a lot of people, they will tell me it's the backyard at Oprah's house. That Super Soul Sunday, her whatever, I'm sure it's not really her backyard. So I think a lot of times we skip where we're going and we see like an ad on Facebook that's like, you can grow your Instagram followers by 15,000. And it's like, oh yeah, let me do that. But we forget why, like why are we growing our Instagram followers? Like what's happening? So what I want us to all start with, and I call this your long-term goals, but I want you to brainstorm as many things like Joan London's couch, being on the Monastery stage, having 5 houses. Like, why are we doing this? Where are we going? What is that for you? So take a couple minutes and make a list as big as you can of what comes to mind for you. And then I want you to pick 1 or maybe 2 that stand out on that list and circle them. So just kind of let your mind go. And it's like, how would we know this was all worth it? 5 years. Oh, and the other thing I want to say that I forgot to say is the timeline is different for everyone. Some of it has to do with your age, your personal situation, what's going on with you. This is at least a 5-year goal, but for some of you, it might be a 20-year goal. But it's definitely not, I don't want to know what you want to do right now in the next 12 months. Think at least 5 years out, probably no more than 20 or 25. For some people, they think of it as like their lifetime goal. But really, I like that 5 to 10 year sweet spot. How will we know this was worth it? This part of your effort in your life was worth it. And once your Joan London pops out where you're like, that's totally it, go ahead and share it with one of your secret handshake partners. Share it with somebody at your table, with at least one person. And then we'll share some of them out, but just to sort of make it real for yourself. So tell me what some of you, what do you got? Anyone got a good one? Something you think might inspire you or others?
I'll step out.
Yes. What you got, Cynthia?
My goal is to establish a ministry that will outlive me. I don't want to be dead and gone.
Love that.
Well, thank you.
What else?
Is that you?
Keynote at Book Expo and Good Morning America. Yeah. What do you got, Edna?
I want to try and work with the AMA, the American Medical Association, to incorporate mild hyperbaric oxygen therapy and light therapy into radiation aftercare. So to have rooms in the hospital where you can actually get this treatment for them to acknowledge, which is an uphill battle.
So what I like about this is you're thinking about yours. I think I said this, but just clarifying. It needs to be exactly like what Edna said, that it's binary. It's like yes or no. The AMA either has acknowledged this in a piece of literature or they haven't. Like it's added to their standards or it isn't, right? So we don't want it to be like, I want more doctors to incorporate, I just said hyperbaric oxygen treatment. I know there's more than that. But like, I want more doctors. That's hard to put a finger on. Like I was either on the Oprah couch or I wasn't. I was either on the Good Morning America couch or I wasn't, right? So keep it binary. What else you guys got? Somebody over there, was it Linda?
Okay, in doing research of women over 50 and beauty and everything else, there aren't a whole lot of modeling agencies that are for women over 50 that aren't the elite, like looking around and saying, oh my God, and have maybe a modeling agency or a piece of it. I'm affiliated with John Casablanca to say, I would like to start a over 50 segment for, which has to do with the image consulting.
So if you just start it, is that really the goal?
No, the goal would be to change the face of.
But I want to make it binary. So let's make it more specific, because you could start it today. Let's just go register it. It started, right?
No. I want to show this to John Casablanca. I want to take John Casablanca and have offer a program for women over 50, like another segment.
But how will you know? How will you know that happened? Like, is it get 5 models registered or?
And it's open up to everyone. There were women in there that were old. I was 58 at the time, or 56. There were 3 other women that were older than me, but it was generically specific to just all of you people, and it was a mixture. It wasn't geared towards.
I get it. I'm not 100% on this one yet because it's like so out of your control, right? So it sounds like it sounds really mushy to me.
Okay.
So I would play around with it a little bit more to get it to where it's something that could be in your. So you could start your own modeling agency. Maybe it's not a modeling agency, but starting it probably isn't the goal.
Okay,
So like have one of the models I represent in Vanity Fair. I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just saying we would know if that happened or not. Because otherwise it's mushy gushy, no bueno. Okay, play around with that a little. I'm gonna go to Leah.
A TEDx talk that starts a movement of people becoming soul-infused personality.
Okay, TEDx talk is great. That starts a movement.
Out of my control.
It's just vague. It's like loosey-goosey. So you could say, I want a mailing list of 100,000 people. Would that be a movement? Like, how would you know you started a movement? How would I know? You could have your own TV show. I'm going to have mine soon. You could have your own TV show. Like, how would we know? This is the problem. This is why most of you never get to Canada, because you're going to some amorphous place that doesn't exist. So a TEDx talk, I can put up here. We will know if that happened or not. A TEDx talk on the homepage of TED, we will know if that happened or not. There are lots of people who haven't started movements, have TED, like, do you see what I'm saying? Start a movement's vague.
100 popular, I mean, what is that language? So one of the most popular TED Talks. That's pretty high. Okay. Maybe we'll scale that back to some.
I'm saying this as a placeholder. You can change it if you want later, but TED Talk in the top 100 most viewed for the year. Yes. So 2017's most popular TED Talks, the ones that got the most views.
Okay, that makes me want to throw up.
You could say top 1,000 if you want.
Actually, there's a TED Talk that you can put as a goal to exceed, because there's a guy that I recently saw the headline, I didn't read the article, that he has the longest or the most standing ovation in history in TED Talk right now. You can look him up and make a goal to exceed that.
Okay, Francesca.
So I like to sit with Oprah and talk to her about the personal power of art.
Like privately at her house?
No, on camera. Yeah, but where would that lead, right? That's what
No. We don't have to say where that would lead. We just have to say that it would happen. So is it Super Soul Sunday? Is it?
I don't actually watch Oprah very much because
Okay, so she doesn't sit down with very many people. I believe, but you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, you could certainly be on Super Soul Sunday. That is a TV show where she sits down with people. She could invent a TV show for you, but that's like much harder to imagine happening. Like, I'm sure she's like, did she do a special with Barbara Walters? Like, it was a one-time only. She interviewed Barbara Walters. But for the most part, her TV show is Super Soul Sunday. Now, she also has a whole network. So you could be a guest on any OWN show, because there are multiple OWN shows and they have multiple guests. So you could have an appearance on the OWN network in any way. That would be a yes or no, it happened. Or we can say sitting down with Oprah, which is Super Soul Sunday as far as I know, unless.
sounds good to me, the Super Soul Sunday.
So Super Soul Sunday on art.
The link would be just the power of personal art.
What we're doing here is we're looking for the buy-in. We're looking for, you were on Super Soul Sunday or you weren't. Has anybody been on Super Soul Sunday? It's a no for all of us right now. If we had, I actually have a client who's been on Super Soul Sunday. I'm blanking out on her name. But her TV show is, or her movie is Girl Director. Oh my God, I'm totally work girl. Anyway, I have a client who has been on Super Soul Sunday. That's a yes. If Marie Forleo was here, she has been on Super Soul Sunday. If Mazden Kipp was here, these are people in our industry who have gone to events just like this. I've been at events with them. They have been on Super Soul Sunday. So that's a yes or no. You don't get to say what the producer of that episode of Super Soul Sunday, what have they written on the script? Do you see what I mean? That makes it too hard.
It could be Oprah, it could be Angela Lauria. I would like to be interviewed about the personal power of art.
Well, I could interview tomorrow. I mean, if you want to do a Facebook Live, I think that's different. Right. But I want you to see if you really, I'm going to leave this up there because it might be somebody's. I want you to really think about what is a binary yes or no goal that we could measure. And if it's truly, if you have accomplished your goal, you are happy if you get on my Facebook Live channel, we go sit on that couch right now and I interview you about the power of art for my 20,000 whole followers, and that you're like, that's it, I'm done, I'm good, right? That's not it. I love you, but that's not it. Trina.
I want to establish or own a 100-acre world-renowned retreat center.
Love it.
Wow, 100,000 acres?
100,000 acres, we got to be in Vietnam or something. We're going to have to afford that. Jenny and then Aisha.
My 2020 vision is to travel the world with my husband and my daughter, and then my online training is funding that.
Are you taking a whole year off?
Yes.
How much money do we want to have?
So I want to be, my business needs to be generating over $1 million in revenue.
$1 million in passive income that you could just totally disappear.
Yes. Yep.
I have a friend who will soon be living in Texas who has $1 million in passive income. Okay, what else? Aisha, you were next.
According to the National Restaurant Association, 60% of restaurants fail within the first 3 years of existence. I want to cut it in half.
Okay, it's 5 years from now. The National Restaurant Association releases a statistic, and it says now 30% of restaurants are failing instead of 60. How will you know that was you?
Good point.
See what I'm saying? This is why, again, this is a great example of how sneaky our goals can be, because there's no way to get there, so we end up going for 15,000 Instagram followers instead. Or building a website, or getting letterpress business cards, because you don't know where you're fucking going. This is why most people don't finish their book. They don't even know what fucking book they're writing, and then they're like, I just need to be more disciplined. No, you don't need to be more disciplined. That's not what the problem is. You don't know what book you're writing. That's the problem. Francesca.
So my real goal is actually, I would like to have a painting in a museum.
Oh, see, I love that. Give me some criteria for the museum.
Let's just go with the National Gallery of Art.
Yeah.
Okay, but like, I'm just gonna say a national museum.
Yeah,
Like
a recognized.
a recognized, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Yes.
So the first one is that I want to be on stage with Deepak Chopra and Eckhart Tolle.
Right, love it.
Yeah, and then hanging out and then like traveling the world.
This is what we do.
But my other one is more close to home, and that's I want to build my tiny enlightenment empire, which is a retreat center made of like tiny houses in Colorado.
Okay, that's awesome.
I like that.
In the mountains,
Mm-hmm.
I'm there.
You know it. Yeah! I'll get it done in like a year.
Oh, yes.
Wendy.
I too want to create retreat centers.
Okay.
One, but I'm going to start with one in rainforests.
Love it.
I've had something I wanted to add. My goal is to live a philanthropic lifestyle, that I can live up 10% of what I make and give 90% away, but still maintain the lifestyle.
What would 10% be? What would you want to be living on?
I probably could live on probably close to maybe 200,000.
Okay. So, I'm going to just, for easy math for me, say that's $20,000 a month. If 20,000 is 10%, 180, is that right? Is it? Yeah, like I want to figure out how much she's giving away. So that would be 200,000. She's going to live on 10%, which is 20. So you're going to be giving away, is that one
You said a
point?
month. I don't need 200,000 a month.
No. That's what it would be. If you want to live off 20,000 a month, then you have to make 200,000 a month.
Okay.
She has to make $2 million to make 200,000.
Okay.
Right. So you're going to live on 200,000. You're going to make, so you're going to give away $1.8 million a year.
Yeah.
Yes?
That works for me.
Okay. I like it too.
That's the math.
Give away $2 million a year. How awesome would that be to give away $2 million a year? That sounds so fun. Anyone else?
So I like the idea of being a keynote speaker at the International Press Association.
Love it.
Because if I'm a keynote speaker, I'm making a difference.
Totally.
And my eventual goal, starting with this book, and eventually I want to actually found the American Restaurant Academy with 10,000 members.
Then you can take a poll on them and see how many of their businesses go in the first 3 years.
Right.
I will
And you would have
have
something to measure.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to stop there, but you're getting the idea. You're getting the hang of it. Here is the next part of the assignment. So I want you, first of all, make sure at your table you guys check each other's answer. You're just going to pick one. We think of this as like a keystone goal, that if we get this, everything else falls into place. So the reason why I'm going to use Aisha's example, being the keynote speaker at a major association annual event. Think about any association you've ever been a member of or a part of. Think of their keynote speaker, right? And so I went to Blog World and Mark Cuban was the keynote speaker. Like just think of any event you've ever been at and the keynote speaker. If you get that, you have by definition gotten a whole bunch of other things, right? Like they're not, like no matter how good your book is right now, next week you're not getting invited to be the keynote there. Some other shit had to go down. Now, if you started the 10,000 member organization, that might be, and your organization, the restaurants in your organization have a 30% failure rate, whereas for the industry whole it's 60. Okay, that might be a reason to bring you as a keynote speaker. So what I want you to do is make sure you pick one goal for this exercise, share it with a friend, and make sure it's binary. So your friend at your table has to be able to say, yes, we would know if that happened or it didn't. That's very important. Are you guys getting that distinction? So like, be recognized as a leader. I don't fucking know what that means. It needs to be really real. My painting is in a museum or not. And it's gonna feel scary, but just remember it's this or something better.
Does it just be a financial goal?
No.
Oh, it can't be?
It can be. We're gonna do that next. It is better if you can make it what? Because what are we gonna do? Like let's say the financial goal is I want $10 million. So like sitting in the bank? Like I want everything in my life to stay the same. Nothing changes. I'm driving the same car. I'm wearing the same clothes. I'm doing the exact same job. I'm working the same hours. I just miraculously have $10,000 sitting quietly in the bank, or $10 million sitting quietly in the bank. There's no reason for that, right? Like you want the money for something, and I want to know what that thing is that would motivate you. It has to be a yes or no. You were on Oprah, your painting's in the museum. I never got on Joan London's couch, and you guys still love me, right? So it doesn't matter if this actually happens. I just want you to be able to visualize what the thing is. Okay, so the first thing is clarify your goal, kind of like we did here. You're going to share that goal with the person just to check, am I right? Is this binary? Is this like a yes or no? Does this sound good? And then what I want you to do, write that goal on the top of the page, keynote speaker at major association, give away $2 million, put a date on it, 2020, Jenny did a great job with that. Imagine yourself there in the future. So it's 2020 and Jenny is, what were you doing?
Traveling the world with my daughter.
She's taken the year off. Now I want you to describe that person. How is that person different from you? Where do they live? What are their clothes? What's their staff like? What do they have staff? They may not. If we got to the place where we have a tiny house retreat center, did we start with one tiny house? Like, did it build? So I want you to write as much as you can. I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to write as much as you can about the person who has that outcome. You with me? And the best way to do this is don't make that person you. I want you to because it's not going to be you. And Deepak Chopra talks about this amazingly. Every single cell in your body is flipping over. You will be for sure a different person when you get this goal. Every single cell will be different, every molecule. So I want you to think about that person. Sometimes I name her. You know, like I used to always call this me before I met her, the lady of the castle. I'm like, who's the lady who lives in the castle? And I would like describe the lady in the castle. So like, who is this person? And describe her like it's somebody you met on an airplane. She told me she bought her first tiny house in 2017. She couldn't believe she did it. She did it with lottery winnings. And she was able to keep trading in tiny houses. One tiny house she traded in for 2. And she like the red paperclip guy. And she traded in tiny houses till she had 100 of them all on the same street in Colorado. Like, what is the story? Who is this person? What's their life like? Make it abstract as possible. Although, Jenny, I don't want you to not include like your daughter. Like, so she doesn't have to have a son who's 28. Like, it can be like, but I really want you to think about this person as separate from you. It's a person we're going to create in the next 3 days. So who is this person we're creating? Kind of want to make sure you like her. So make sure you have a goal. Like, check with the person before you start writing. Make sure you have an actual goal. Just take a second and be like, this is the thing. If I've already talked about it here and I wrote it down, you don't have to. But if you're picking a goal that might be mushy, like help each other out, because anything mushy is super hard to see. It has to be like yes or no. What are the criteria of people who get paintings in museums? Like, usually they've done a bunch of gallery shows. So I'm doing, I did monthly gallery shows for 5 years leading up to it. Like, I don't know what it is. You want to pick one for this exercise, just so you have it really clear in your head. The person who has the tiny house retreat center, who is she? Who's this person? If you're ready to build your business with a book, take my free class at pageuppodcast.com.